This week's installment is sponsored by Squarespace. Well, good morning everybody, and welcome to another weekly vlog. Thank you for joining me this week. This is an extension of last week's vlog where I was out at on the west coast of Vancouver Island, Port Renfrew, and I'm out here with my friend Brian Barnham. And Brian and I have come down to the southern section of the island, not far from Victoria, a place called Sooke. And we decided to come to a campground because a lot of the areas that I usually camp are kind of iffy whether you should camp there or not. And of course, with the rooftop tent, it's pretty obvious. So I've never actually stayed at this campground, but it's pretty nice. It's right by the Sooke River here. But yeah, nice view of the river. And of course, the van is right here. Brian's sleeping in luxury in the rooftop tent, and I'm just inside the van there. Works out pretty good. So today we're going to go and have a look at a couple of waterfalls that are not far from here, Sooke Potholes. I'm hoping that it'll cloud over a little bit because one of them is particularly hard to photograph when there is sun out. It's hard enough without the sun, but with sun it would be virtually impossible. The contrast is just too high. So yeah, just going to have a quick bite to eat, and then we'll be on our way. Got Brian muscling in on my shots again, as usual. I just have to put up with him, I guess. So we've come down to Sooke Potholes, and this is the first waterfall in this area. There's a little bridge up to the parking lot, and the nice thing about this spot is there's some really great mossy trees, and the light this morning is well, very first thing, it was quite cloudy and it's slowly clearing up a little bit, but it's still subdued enough that we're getting some directional light but also ambient light, so the contrast range isn't too bad. Now it varies, now and then it'll get too contrasty, and then other times the clouds will move in a bit thicker, so it just tones it down a little bit. And what's really cool about this scene is we have, I think it's a yew tree, which is they're quite unusual around here, but as you can see, it's got this lovely moss hanging off it, and it's backlit, and behind it we have the waterfall, so it makes a really nice foreground, and you can kind of frame the waterfall with the tree there. Just beautiful. The only thing that is a little bit disturbing with this scene is the foreground. It's a little bit busy, and especially when the light gets a bit harsher, then it definitely detracts from the main scene. So I've taken some verticals with a foreground, but also some horizontals without that foreground, just the waterfall and the beautiful tree that's backlit here, and hopefully it'll still be simple enough that it'll pull the photograph through. Yeah, lovely scene. And of course, being early spring, the greens are starting to come out on a lot of the shrubs, so that really helps, and they're slightly backlit as well. I have put on a polarizer. There's quite a bit of glare on some of the salal at the bottom, and the polarizer does seem to take some of that away. It's nice to have some there, but it's a little bit too jarring without a polarizer. So I put on a polarizer, and that helps saturate the colors a little bit. Wow, this is a beautiful little scene. I've tried to photograph this before in the past and I haven't had much success. I'm not really sure why. I think probably because I didn't have my welly boots, maybe. I mean, it's really slippery in here. But usually I carry my welly boots, so I'm not really sure why I haven't tried this before. What I'm doing here, it's a little bit hard for you to see, but there's these fantastic roots from this western red cedar, and of course they're covered in moss. And the hard part is getting in over to the right far enough so that you're able to include the waterfall in the background, because there are some red alder there that kind of hide the waterfall. So if I photographed it from here, the roots look really good, but the problem is that the waterfall is cut off by a couple of trees. So I have to really push myself into the side here. Now by doing that, the problem I'm going to have is depth of field. Now I have my 20mm on, or 20 to 35. So full frame on a 35mm, that would be about 16mm, so the widest I can get. And I'm going to have to focus stack this one so that at least I can get the foreground in sharp focus. But it should look really good. And with a polarizer, it really helps to saturate these greens in the foreground, which I really quite like actually. So we still have a bit of backlight on some of these shrubs and that. It is causing a bit of a problem in the stream with reflections, but the polarizer does get rid of that somewhat. Now, as far as waterfalls go, I think this particular waterfall always looks better to me from further away, because when you get closer to it, it's actually not that steep. There's a couple of little tiers here, the steepest one being the one at the top, and then it levels out and then it comes down again. So when you're back by the bridge or the start of the trail there, with a longer focal length, it really pulls those elements together and flattens it out, so it almost looks like it's much steeper than it is. But having said that, I've come up a bit closer. I really love these boulders here, and I think what I love about this area is not so much the waterfall, but all of the moss on the trees. There's some great moss just to the right of me, just behind me there, and I've tried in the past to try and utilize that and have that as a foreground, but it just doesn't work. It's not the right angle. So I was really happy to finally get a shot of the roots there, and I think that today that one and possibly the other one will be the best shots. This one, it does have some elements in it that I really do like, but like I said, the waterfall, I don't know, it's more of a secondary subject. I think it's the boulders that really interest me with the mossy trees on the side here. I am fighting a little bit with the light here. The light on the right side is just beautiful, but as you can see on the left here, it's getting a little bit harsh. There are clouds in the area, so you have to kind of wait for the clouds to move in just a little bit.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Squarespace for continuing to support my channel and sponsoring this week's video. My favorite feature of my Squarespace website is the ability to quickly and efficiently update a gallery or page from my desktop computer or on the fly using the Squarespace app from my smartphone. Loading multiple images onto a page is quick and allows changing a page or design quickly and elegantly without any coding knowledge. Sound interesting? Why not head on over to squarespace.com and try it for free? If you like the platform, use the code AdamGibbs for 10% off your first purchase.
Well, good evening everybody. Bit of a change of venue from this morning's waterfall. We've come up island towards Parksville where I live, and we decided to come out for an evening shoot at one of the local beaches. This one's not far from where I live, about 10-15 minute drive, and there's some really nice little rock formations here, and it really catches the light nicely this time of year in the evening. A lot of people don't know this about Vancouver Island, but even on the east side of the island, some areas, especially this time of year, get evening light and morning light. So it's a real nice little bonus for us that live on the east coast. What I'm concentrating on right now is just some of the rocks and some of the patterns in the rocks, with the nice little islands in the background there. And of course we have the coast mountains, which are on the mainland. Beautiful light right now, so I'm going to rush back to my tripod and camera and try and take a couple of images before the sun sets behind the mountains there, which is probably about 15 minutes. So this is just to prove that Brian takes his photography very seriously, doesn't photograph everything at eye level. Hats off to him. The problem I have with this position is that getting up again can be a real problem. So I might have to go and get the winch out with some pulleys to get him back up standing. But that's, dedication to the craft. Look at him. He's going to talk a bunch of rubbish again. What are you looking for? You lost something? He's trying to look interested in the landscape.
Do B-roll, do B-roll.
Oh, sorry, mate.
This is nice, this bit. I like that. I like that there.
So I think both Brian and I have been working on Oh, the light's quite nice on this right now,
Yeah.
on this section here. The sky's not very interesting though. But there's some nice little light on the foreground. The ocean, you can smooth that out with a ND filter, kind of simplify it. But the sky is a bit blah. All right, the light hasn't improved drastically. It's a little bit brighter now, but I think by the time it comes up from behind the clouds there, I think it's going to be too harsh. So I've decided to, rather than go for the grand landscape, because it's not awesome, starting to look for rock patterns on the ground here, and there's some really nice taffany patterns here with the lines, and then there's little pebbles stuck in the lines. Now with this photograph, I think I'm going to go for a black and white here because there isn't an awful lot of color, but there are some things that I'm starting to look at before I take the photograph when it comes to processing. So if we just turn this on here, you can see that I have these lines coming in here, and I really love the little pebbles in the lines there. This here is kind of the center of interest. I'd like to have more emphasis on that boulder. So what I'll probably have to do is darken this side especially. You can see it's quite a bit brighter. Lighten this whole section here to draw you in to this area here, and perhaps lighten this up a little bit. Basically, I just want to add contrast in certain areas, brighten up areas to draw you in, darken other areas to kind of take your eye away from those areas. Now this is a little bit narrower than the actual photograph will be. I'm going for a square here, but I really love these. It almost looks like an octopus's tentacles kind of reaching out, and then this nice little boulder here. It's more about texture and pattern. It's I don't know, it's just a nice little study in rocks. So let's go for that and see if I can pull this composition together with a little bit of careful post-processing.
Thank you ever so much, everybody, for watching this week's video. Don't forget to give me the old thumbs up. That's always appreciated. And if you'd like to support my channel in other ways, head on over to my website where I offer workshops and also have merchandise for sale that helps keep this channel running. I also have a Patreon page where I show you behind the scenes videos and photographs. So go check that out. I'll leave a link down below. All right, till next time. Bye-bye.